have we all been looking in the wrong direction? For years, the electric vehicle industry seemed like a race between a handful of familiar names. Tesla dominated headlines. BYD expanded across global markets at an incredible pace. New startups appeared almost every month, all promising to change transportation forever. Meanwhile, one company kept hearing the same criticism over and over again. Toyota was too late. Toyota didn't understand EVs. Toyota missed the future. But what if those critics were wrong? What if the company that sold more vehicles than almost anyone else on the planet wasn't falling behind at all? What if it was simply waiting for the right moment to make its move? That question is suddenly generating serious discussion across the automotive industry, because Toyota has revealed an electric SUV that is being reported to start at around $23,000, and that number alone is enough to get people's attention. But the real story goes much deeper than the price. The urban cruiser EV could represent something far bigger. It could be the first sign of Toyota's plan to use its enormous manufacturing power, decades of customer trust, and global reach to challenge the companies currently leading the EV revolution. And if that happens, the entire market could change. Because when the world's largest automaker decides to take electric vehicles seriously, everyone pays attention. Before we get into the details, make sure to subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications, because the EV industry is changing faster than ever, and you don't want to miss what's coming next. For a long time, Toyota looked like the odd company out. While Tesla was launching new electric vehicles and building charging networks, Toyota continued talking about hybrids. While BYD was rapidly expanding its electric lineup, Toyota was still investing heavily in multiple technologies. And while many governments around the world were pushing battery-powered transportation, Toyota executives continued discussing hydrogen and hybrid solutions. To some observers, it looked like Toyota simply didn't understand where the market was heading. But Toyota had a very different view of the future. The company believed the world wasn't moving at the same speed everywhere. In countries with strong charging infrastructure, EV adoption was accelerating quickly. But in many other regions, charging stations remained limited. Long-distance travel still created concerns. Battery costs were still high, and millions of customers wanted fuel savings without completely changing their driving habits. Toyota saw hybrids as the practical answer. Instead of asking customers to completely abandon traditional fueling, hybrids offered improved efficiency while keeping the convenience people were already familiar with. That strategy proved incredibly successful. Models like the Prius became icons. Hybrid versions of popular Toyota vehicles continued attracting buyers around the world. And while critics focused on Toyota's relatively small EV lineup, the company quietly sold millions of electrified vehicles through its hybrid programs. But Toyota wasn't only thinking about hybrids. The company was also investing heavily in hydrogen technology. Executives believed that future transportation might involve multiple solutions rather than a single winner. Battery electric vehicles, hybrid vehicles, plug-in hybrids, hydrogen fuel cells, hydrogen combustion engines. Toyota wanted exposure to all of them. At the time, many analysts viewed this approach as outdated. The industry narrative was simple. EVs would dominate everything. Everyone else needed to catch up. But then something interesting happened. Battery prices began falling. Charging networks expanded. Governments introduced incentives. Manufacturing improved. And suddenly, EV adoption started accelerating much faster than many people expected. Tesla became a global force. BYD exploded into international markets. Chinese automakers began challenging established brands. And Toyota realized something important. Ignoring the EV market completely was no longer an option. The company needed a serious response. Not 10 years from now, not 5 years from now, now. And that's exactly where the urban cruiser EV enters the story. At first glance, it doesn't look revolutionary. In fact, that's part of the point. Toyota didn't design this vehicle to shock people. It didn't create an extreme futuristic concept. It didn't build a luxury supercar. Instead, Toyota focused on something far more important: normal buyers. The urban cruiser EV is designed for the people who have been watching the EV market from the sidelines. Interested people, curious people, but people who still haven't made the jump. The first thing many buyers notice is the SUV design. That decision wasn't random. SUVs continue dominating global markets. Families love them, commuters love them, drivers appreciate the higher seating position and practical cargo space. Toyota understands this trend better than almost anyone. Rather than trying to force customers into a completely new type of vehicle, the company built something familiar. The front styling is modern but not overly aggressive. The body shape prioritizes practicality. Ground clearance remains useful for everyday driving. Visibility is strong. Everything about the vehicle feels designed around real-world use rather than flashy marketing. And that could become one of its biggest strengths, because many first-time EV buyers aren't looking for the most futuristic vehicle on the road. They're looking for something comfortable, something practical, something reliable, something that fits naturally into their lives. Toyota knows that better than most manufacturers. But appearance is only part of the equation. The real questions begin when people start talking about batteries. Whenever someone considers buying an EV, the same concerns usually appear. How far can it go? How long does charging take? How expensive will the battery be to replace? Can I trust it years from now? Toyota understands these concerns because it has spent decades building a reputation for reliability. That's why battery technology is such an important part of the urban cruiser story. Reports indicate the vehicle will be offered with multiple battery options. That approach makes sense. Not every customer has identical needs. Some drivers spend nearly all their time inside cities. Others regularly travel longer distances. Some want the lowest possible price. Others prioritize maximum range. Toyota appears to be addressing these differences through different battery configurations rather than forcing every buyer into the same package. Current information points toward battery options of around 49 kilowatt-hours and 61 kilowatt-hours. Those numbers place the urban cruiser directly inside one of the most competitive EV segments in the world. Large enough to provide a useful daily driving range. Small enough to help control costs. And cost control matters enormously, because battery packs remain the most expensive component in almost every electric vehicle. Toyota's reported use of lithium iron phosphate batteries is also attracting attention. LFP batteries may not always produce the biggest headline numbers, but they offer advantages that many buyers care about. They tend to be more affordable. They are known for durability. They provide strong safety characteristics, and they can withstand many charging cycles. For customers planning to keep a vehicle for years, those benefits can be extremely attractive. Toyota appears to be focusing on long-term ownership rather than chasing record-breaking specifications. And that's very consistent with the company's broader philosophy. The expected range figures are also creating discussion. Depending on the version, estimates suggest somewhere between roughly 340 and over 400 kilometers of WLTP range. Real-world results will naturally vary depending on temperature, traffic, driving style, and road conditions. But those figures place the urban cruiser comfortably within the range expectations of many mainstream buyers. Most people don't drive hundreds of kilometers every day. In fact, many drivers travel less than 50 kilometers daily. For them, charging becomes a weekly consideration rather than a daily concern, and that changes the ownership experience dramatically. But range isn't the only factor influencing purchase decisions. Charging speed matters too. Toyota has included fast charging capability, allowing significant battery replenishment during shorter stops. However, the company appears to understand something many marketing campaigns ignore. Most charging doesn't happen at public stations. It happens at home, overnight, while people sleep. For many owners, waking up to a fully charged vehicle becomes more important than achieving record-breaking charging times. That practical mindset appears throughout the urban cruiser project. Toyota isn't trying to win every specification battle. It's trying to create a balanced package, and sometimes those are the vehicles that sell in the largest numbers. But none of that explains why industry observers are paying such close attention to this particular EV. The answer may be hiding in the price. Because if Toyota can truly deliver a practical electric SUV at around $23,000, the implications could be enormous. For years, affordability has remained one of the biggest obstacles facing EV adoption. Consumers love the idea of lower operating costs. They like reduced maintenance. They appreciate instant torque and smooth acceleration. But many simply can't justify the purchase price. That creates a gap between interest and action, a gap between wanting an EV and actually buying one. Toyota appears determined to target that gap directly, and what happens next could surprise the entire industry. That possibility is exactly why competitors are paying attention, because the battle for the future of transportation is no longer being fought only in the premium segment. The real war is happening in the mass market. The company that successfully delivers an affordable, reliable, practical EV to millions of ordinary buyers, could ultimately become the biggest winner of all. And Toyota has spent decades mastering mass-market manufacturing. Think about how most consumers actually buy vehicles. Many enthusiasts focus on horsepower. Some focus on technology. Others focus on charging speeds or battery chemistry. But average buyers usually ask much simpler questions. Can I afford it? Can I trust it? Will it last? How much will it cost me over time? Those questions often determine purchasing decisions far more than the latest technical specifications. This is where Toyota could have an advantage that many newer EV companies struggle to match: trust. For decades, Toyota has built one of the strongest reputations in the automotive industry. Millions of drivers associate the brand with reliability. They expect Toyota vehicles to last. They expect maintenance costs to remain manageable. They expect strong resale values. And most importantly, they expect fewer surprises. That reputation wasn't built overnight. It took generations. Families bought Toyota vehicles, then recommended them to friends. Those friends recommended them to coworkers. Over time, Toyota created something many companies spend billions trying to achieve: customer confidence. That confidence becomes especially important when introducing new technology. Many people remain cautious about EVs. Some worry about batteries. Others worry about long-term durability. Many simply don't know what ownership will look like after 5 or 10 years. When those buyers see a Toyota badge, some of those concerns immediately become less intimidating. That's not because Toyota has all the answers. It's because the company has spent decades earning credibility, and credibility can be an incredibly powerful competitive advantage. But trust isn't Toyota's only weapon. The company's service network may be even more important. Imagine two vehicles with similar specifications. One comes from a company with limited service locations. The other comes from a company with dealerships and service centers spread across entire countries. For many buyers, the choice becomes obvious. Support matters. Convenience matters. Knowing help is available nearby matters. Toyota already possesses one of the largest automotive support networks on the planet. That infrastructure took decades to build, and now it could become a major advantage as EV adoption continues growing. Many consumers still consider after-sales support before making a purchase. They want parts availability. They want trained technicians. They want confidence that problems can be solved quickly. Toyota's existing network helps address those concerns immediately. And that's where things become very interesting, because while many EV companies are still building their service ecosystems, Toyota already has one. But if trust and service are powerful advantages, Toyota's biggest strength may be something even larger: manufacturing. And this is where the conversation becomes impossible to ignore. Most people think about vehicles when they think about Toyota. Industry experts think about factories, because Toyota's manufacturing machine is one of the most impressive industrial systems ever created. The scale is almost too difficult to comprehend. In recent years, Toyota Group vehicle sales exceeded 10 million units globally. That means tens of thousands of vehicles sold every single day. Every day. Not every month, not every year. Every day. Few companies on Earth operate at that level, and achieving that kind of scale requires far more than large factories. It requires extraordinary coordination, thousands of suppliers, millions of components, massive logistics networks, global distribution systems, production facilities operating across multiple continents. Toyota has spent generations perfecting those systems. The company operates manufacturing facilities across Japan, North America, Europe, Southeast Asia, China, India, South America, and many other regions. This global footprint creates enormous advantages. Vehicles can often be produced closer to customers. Transportation costs can be reduced. Supply chains can become more efficient. Production can be adapted for local markets. Few automakers can match that level of flexibility. And in an EV price war, efficiency matters more than ever, because every dollar saved during production can potentially be passed to consumers. That's one reason why analysts continue watching Toyota closely. The company may not have been first, but if it decides to scale aggressively, it has the resources to move incredibly fast. Another factor often overlooked is Toyota's famous production philosophy. Known worldwide as the Toyota Production System, it has influenced manufacturers far beyond the automotive industry. Business schools study it. Executives analyze it. Factories attempt to replicate it. The goal is straightforward: reduce waste, improve quality, identify problems early, Create consistent products. That focus on efficiency helped Toyota become one of the most successful manufacturers in history. And now those same principles are being applied to electric vehicles. But manufacturing vehicles is only part of the challenge. Building batteries has become equally important. In many cases, batteries represent the single largest cost inside an EV. Control battery costs, and you can control vehicle prices. Failing to control battery costs and profitability becomes much harder. Toyota understands this reality. That's why the company has invested heavily in battery partnerships, battery research, and battery production strategies. Interestingly, Toyota has even worked with companies that many people would consider competitors. The modern automotive industry is full of unexpected partnerships. Manufacturers often cooperate in one area while competing fiercely in another. Battery development is a perfect example. The race toward lower costs, higher energy density, faster charging, and longer lifespan is accelerating every year. No major automaker wants to fall behind. Toyota certainly doesn't. Which brings us to one of the most discussed topics surrounding the company's future: solid-state batteries. For years, solid-state technology has been described as a potential game-changer. The promise sounds almost too good to be true. Higher energy density, improved safety, potentially faster charging, potentially longer lifespan, reduced dependence on some limitations affecting current battery technology. Naturally, excitement around solid-state batteries has exploded. But there's also a challenge. Mass production. Creating prototypes is one thing. Building millions of affordable battery packs is another. That's why many companies continue researching the technology while carefully managing expectations. Toyota has repeatedly signaled that it views solid-state batteries as an important part of its future. The company has invested billions into research and development. Executives have frequently discussed the technology. Industry observers continue watching every announcement, and speculation remains intense. Some believe Toyota could eventually become one of the leaders in solid-state deployment. Others argue that large-scale production remains years away. No one knows exactly how quickly the technology will mature. But one thing is clear: Toyota intends to be part of that future. And that's where the urban cruiser EV becomes more important than it first appears. Because this vehicle isn't just about one model. It's about a larger strategy, a much larger strategy. For years, critics have accused Toyota of lacking commitment to EVs. Today, the evidence suggests something different. The company appears to be preparing a broad expansion. Not one electric vehicle, not two, an entire lineup. Toyota understands that different customers have different needs. Some want compact city vehicles. Some want family SUVs. Some want premium luxury products. Others want affordability above all else. No single vehicle can satisfy every buyer. That's why Toyota's long-term roadmap includes multiple segments and multiple markets: Europe, North America, China, Southeast Asia, India, Latin America. Emerging markets that may become some of the largest growth opportunities in the automotive industry, and that's a crucial point. Many discussions about EVs focus on wealthy countries, but the future may be shaped just as much by developing markets. Millions of people in countries like India, Indonesia, Thailand, Brazil, and others will purchase vehicles for the first time over the coming years. Winning those customers could determine the next generation of automotive leaders. Toyota knows this. The company has extensive experience operating in these regions. It understands local conditions, it understands affordability challenges, and it understands that one solution doesn't fit everyone. That's why Toyota continues supporting what many call a multi-path strategy. Rather than betting everything on a single technology, the company is keeping several options alive simultaneously. Hybrid vehicles, plug-in hybrids, battery electric vehicles, hydrogen technologies. Some critics view this approach as indecisive. Toyota views it differently. The company believes transportation needs vary across markets, infrastructure levels, and customer preferences. Whether that strategy proves brilliant or flawed will only become clear over time. But Toyota isn't abandoning it. Instead, it's expanding its EV presence while continuing investments elsewhere. And that creates a fascinating possibility. What if Toyota's years of patience actually become an advantage? What if the company enters the next phase of the EV market with lower battery costs, stronger manufacturing systems, mature supply chains, and products designed around mainstream buyers rather than early adopters? Suddenly, the narrative looks very different. Instead of asking why Toyota was late, people may start asking whether Toyota was waiting for the right moment. And that question becomes even more important when comparing Toyota against the companies currently leading the EV conversation. BYD, for example, remains one of the most formidable competitors in the industry. The company's vertical integration gives it extraordinary cost control. BYD manufactures batteries, develops technology internally, and continues expanding into international markets at a remarkable speed. Its affordable pricing has helped attract millions of buyers. Toyota will not have an easy battle against a company like BYD, not even close. Tesla presents a completely different challenge. Tesla isn't just a car company. For many consumers, it represents innovation itself. The brand helped redefine expectations surrounding electric vehicles. Software updates, advanced technology, charging infrastructure, brand recognition. All of these strengths continue to give Tesla enormous influence. Then there are regional leaders such as Tata in India and other manufacturers that understand local markets exceptionally well. Competition is fierce, perhaps fiercer than at any time in automotive history. But Toyota brings something unique to that fight: scale, trust, manufacturing expertise, global reach, and decades of experience producing vehicles for ordinary people rather than niche audiences. The urban cruiser EV may not be the fastest, it may not have the biggest battery, it may not have the most screens, but it might be targeting something far more valuable: mass adoption. And if Toyota succeeds, the consequences could be enormous. Because once affordable EVs become accessible to larger groups of consumers, adoption can accelerate rapidly. The conversation shifts from enthusiasts to everyday families, from technology enthusiasts to practical buyers, from early adopters to the mainstream. And that's where industries often change forever. So perhaps the biggest question isn't whether the urban cruiser EV can compete. Perhaps the real question is this: what happens if the world's most trusted automakers start selling affordable electric vehicles by the millions? What happens if Toyota combines decades of reliability with increasingly affordable battery technology? What happens if its massive manufacturing empire begins focusing more aggressively on EV production? The answers could reshape the industry over the next decade. For now, the urban cruiser EV is only one piece of a much larger puzzle. But it may also be the clearest sign yet that Toyota is preparing for a future far more electric than many people expected. And if that future arrives faster than anyone predicts, the companies currently leading the EV race may soon find themselves facing a competitor they can no longer afford to underestimate. Because Toyota's biggest move might not be the urban cruiser itself. It might be what comes next. But there is another reason this story has captured so much attention. And it has very little to do with a single vehicle. It has to do with timing. Because the EV market today looks very different from the market that existed 5 years ago. Back then, almost every new electric vehicle could attract attention simply by being electric. Consumers were excited. Governments were offering incentives. Competition was still relatively limited. Manufacturers were racing to establish themselves before rivals could catch up. Today, the situation is completely different. The market has matured, buyers have become more demanding, and companies can no longer rely on excitement alone. Consumers now want value. They want reliability. They want a practical range. They want affordable ownership costs. And perhaps most importantly, they want confidence that the company behind the vehicle will still be supporting it years from now. That shift may actually favor companies like Toyota, because Toyota has never built its business around hype. The company built its reputation around consistency, year after year, decade after decade. While other manufacturers focused on dramatic launches and bold promises, Toyota focused on building vehicles people could depend on. That approach sometimes made the company seem less exciting, but it also helped create one of the strongest customer loyalty networks in the automotive industry. And loyalty matters, especially during periods of technological change. When consumers feel uncertain, they often move toward brands they already trust. That pattern has appeared repeatedly throughout automotive history. Whenever major changes occur, established reputations become valuable assets. Toyota understands that better than almost anyone. And there is another factor that many people overlook: economic uncertainty. Around the world, vehicle buyers are becoming increasingly sensitive to price. Higher interest rates, inflation, rising living costs. Economic pressures affect purchasing decisions. Many consumers simply cannot justify spending huge amounts on transportation. That reality is forcing automakers to rethink their strategies. The race is no longer about building the most expensive electric vehicle. It's about building the smartest one, the vehicle that offers the best balance between affordability, practicality, reliability, and technology. That's exactly the area where Toyota has traditionally performed well. The company has spent decades finding ways to deliver dependable transportation at scale. And now it appears to be applying that same philosophy to electric vehicles. The urban cruiser EV may represent one of the first major examples of that strategy becoming visible. Yet perhaps the most interesting part of the story is what Toyota isn't doing. The company isn't abandoning hybrids. It isn't abandoning hydrogen research. It isn't betting everything on one outcome. Instead, Toyota continues preparing for multiple futures at the same time. That approach frustrates some analysts. Many investors prefer simple narratives. One technology, one direction, one answer. Toyota's leadership has repeatedly argued that the real world is more complicated. Different countries have different infrastructure. Different customers have different needs. Different markets develop at different speeds. A strategy that works perfectly in one region may fail somewhere else. From Toyota's perspective, flexibility may be more valuable than absolute commitment to a single technology. Whether that philosophy ultimately proves correct remains one of the biggest unanswered questions in the industry. But Toyota appears determined to test it. And if the company succeeds, it could change the way other automakers think about the future. Because imagine a world 10 years from now, a world where battery costs have continued falling. Charging networks are widespread. Solid-state batteries have reached commercial production. Electric vehicles are significantly more affordable. And Toyota is producing EVs at a scale few competitors can match. In that scenario, the company could become an even more powerful force than it is today. Not because it moved first, but because it moved at the right time. That possibility is exactly why investors, analysts, competitors, and consumers are watching Toyota so closely. Every new battery announcement attracts attention. Every EV launch generates discussion. Every production target becomes headline news. People want to know whether Toyota can transform its dominance in traditional vehicles into dominance in the electric era. Some believe the answer is yes. Others remain skeptical. They point out Tesla's technological leadership. They highlight BYD's battery expertise and manufacturing efficiency. They emphasize the rapid rise of Chinese automakers. And those concerns are valid. Competition has never been stronger. Toyota will not have an easy path forward. But history suggests one thing. Writing off Toyota has often been a mistake. The company has repeatedly demonstrated an ability to adapt. When fuel efficiency became important, Toyota led the hybrid revolution. When reliability became a major purchasing factor, Toyota became one of the most trusted names in the industry. When global expansion opportunities emerged, Toyota built one of the largest automotive networks in history. Now it faces another transformation, the shift toward electrification. And while the company may have entered later than some competitors, it enters with resources that few manufacturers can match. Billions of dollars in investment, decades of manufacturing experience, a global supply network, a massive customer base, and perhaps most importantly, patience. That patience may turn out to be one of Toyota's greatest advantages, because while other companies were fighting for headlines, Toyota was studying the market, watching battery prices, monitoring infrastructure development, evaluating customer behavior, preparing factories, building partnerships, planning for long-term scale. Now the results of that preparation are beginning to appear. The urban cruiser EV may only be the beginning. Behind it could come additional affordable EVs, larger SUVs, smaller city cars, premium models, next-generation batteries, new manufacturing methods, and potentially even technologies that haven't reached consumers yet. The next decade could look very different from the last, and Toyota intends to be part of that future. The biggest irony of all may be this. For years, critics argued that Toyota's caution would cause it to miss the EV revolution. But what if that caution helped the company avoid costly mistakes? What if moving slower allowed Toyota to learn from the successes and failures of others? What if patience gave Toyota time to prepare for a market that is only now entering its most competitive phase? No one knows for certain, but the possibility is becoming harder to ignore. Because when a company capable of selling more than 10 million vehicles a year starts focusing more seriously on electric transportation, the entire industry feels the impact. Manufacturers notice, suppliers notice, investors notice, and consumers definitely notice. The urban cruiser EV may not instantly dominate global sales. It may not replace Tesla. It may not overtake BYD overnight. But that's not necessarily the goal. Sometimes the most important products aren't the ones that change everything immediately. They're the ones that signal a much larger shift is coming. And that's why this vehicle matters. It may represent the moment Toyota officially moves from observing the EV race to actively shaping it. If that happens, the next chapter of the electric vehicle industry could become far more competitive than anyone expected. Because suddenly, Tesla won't just be fighting startups. BYD won't just be battling other Chinese manufacturers. Every company will have to deal with one of the most experienced automotive giants in history. A company with unmatched global reach. A company with millions of loyal customers. A company with enormous production capacity. And a company that has spent decades mastering the art of building vehicles for the mass market. So the next time someone says Toyota was late to electric vehicles, remember this: being first doesn't always determine who wins. Sometimes the winner is the company that understands when the market is truly ready. And Toyota appears to be betting that moment is arriving right now. The urban cruiser EV might look like a simple, affordable SUV. But behind that vehicle lies a much bigger story. A story about strategy. A story about patience. A story about one of the world's most powerful automakers preparing for the next era of transportation. Whether Toyota's gamble succeeds or fails will become one of the defining automotive stories of the next decade. But one thing is already clear. The company that many people thought was falling behind is no longer standing on the sidelines. It's stepping directly into the fight, and what happens next could reshape the future of electric vehicles around the world. If you enjoyed this video, let us know in the comments. Do you think Toyota waited too long to enter the EV market? Or do you believe the company's strategy of patience and preparation will eventually prove to be the smarter move? And if Toyota can truly deliver affordable, reliable electric vehicles to millions of customers, could it become the biggest threat yet to Tesla, BYD, and every other EV manufacturer? Share your thoughts below. Don't forget to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and turn on notifications so you never miss the latest developments in the rapidly changing world of electric vehicles. Because if the EV revolution has taught us anything, it's that the biggest surprises often come from the companies everyone thought they already understood. And Toyota's biggest surprise may still be ahead.